Jenny Weaver, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. My first question, before we dig into the meat of this interview, you were very heavily involved in witchcraft at one point in your life. Just really quickly, for people who don't know your testimony, who don't know your story, how did you get involved in witchcraft?
Yeah, around the age of 13, I was starting to get depressed. I was being bullied at school. And even though I was in a Christian home, my parents did the best that they could, but they were heavily on the side of just abuse. And so when you were in trouble, you were beat. And so I believe the enemy used that to come against my self-worth, who I thought I was. And I was so depressed. I just thought if I would die, life would be better for everybody else. And so during that time, I was connected with some girls, and I remember going to a sleepover, and they watched a movie called The Craft. And this movie came out around 1996, and it was about 4 witches who were in high school. And these witches were bullied and picked on, and their lives were kind of messed up, and they used witchcraft to control situations around them and to get what they wanted. I watched the movie, and I thought, I want that. Well, of course, in the movie, they went too far anyway, and the witchcraft had turned against them, and the girls were desperate to get out of it. But during that point, I didn't even see that ending. I just thought, oh, I won't go that far. I'm just going to be innocent in it. And I began to study the religion of Wiccan and study different spells and incantations and New Age practices and occult practices that I was doing in a Christian home that nobody knew I was doing. And so what started off as something innocent, where I'm just connecting with energy and the universe and vibes and all these innocent things that we see, took me down a path of just dark desperation. I felt at one point that I was living in like a haunted house, because I was hearing scratches on the wall right next to me. I would feel brushed by me and be terrified that somebody is here in the room with me, someone's watching me. I've always felt like I was being watched. When I would wash my face for the day, it was one of the most terrifying things that I did. When I took a shower and I had to close my eyes, I was so terrified. If I had to get up in the middle of the night to get a glass of water, I would run, because I thought something's going to grab my feet. I was an adult at this point, and it took me far into drugs. I ended up being homeless and on drugs, in and out of jails and all kinds of things. For 9 years of my life, I was really in a dark place.
And one day God did set you free, Jenny, and we're so grateful that you've renounced that and you are a minister of the gospel, an awesome worship leader. I love your testimony, and 700 Club has covered your story quite a bit, and so we're so grateful for that. But Jenny, it's so troubling to see that witchcraft and the occult is really on the rise. I mean, we're seeing it in stores. We're seeing clothing promoting, hey, I'm a good witch, or I'm a bad witch,
Right.
We're seeing even witches having workshops and retreats and all these things. Why do you think this has become so much more mainstream, so much more acceptable?
I think media has done a good job of pushing something to the point where it is now normalized, when back in the day, something like that for you and I, it would be shocking to see. And now, because we have shows as early as, daycare age, promoting witchcraft and sorcery, and it's okay, boys and girls, say these spell words with us. And it's so ABC preschool witchcraft that it gets into the hearts and the minds of people, including the people in church, and people who are not really connected with the Lord and don't understand. They're easily deceived. And the Bible talks about even the very elect will be deceived. And so people are going to a whole nother source. That's what they're wanting. They want a healing crystal, because they don't understand that Jesus is the healer, and there's no other source that you can go to except through Jesus. And so I'm seeing a rise of this. I'm seeing it become very trending on TikTok and things like that. And there's a whole generation of people who I feel like are being rocked to sleep by the enemy. And it's just really time for the church, like what you're doing this interview, to sound the alarm and say, no, we need to wake up and we need to say, this is not right. And it's not for my home. It's not for my kids.
And I believe that a lot of young girls are being targeted because there's this one, apparently she's an influencer on Instagram. Her name is, I think, Brie Luna or something like that. And she partnered with Smashbox, the cosmetics company, and they created a whole cosmetic line using, I think, inspired by crystals.
Right. Yeah, they're pushing the envelope. They want to see everything push the envelope. What's trendy? What's really shocking? What's going to get the attention of people? You know, they recreated that movie, The Craft, in 2020.
Really?
They recreated the movie and they invited real witches on the set. And they had the witches, before they would do a scene, to cast spells and to invite the actresses to come into this circle with them while they were releasing spell words over the viewers and over the scene. And they broadcast it and wrote articles like, isn't this amazing? We're getting real and raw with these real witches. And people are playing it in their home, and it's entertainment. And, you know, Charlene, I always say the first part of entertainment is enter. So be careful what's entering your home.
Absolutely.
I didn't have that in my home, but it is definitely a shock factor that our generation is really gravitating towards.
That is so shocking. I didn't know that. We're certainly going to make sure that people are aware of that.